Nellie had always been one of those people who seemed to be able to do everything at once, even if stumbling along the way. At the marketing agency where she worked, she was known both for her brilliant creativity and for her ability to spill coffee on the keyboard while having genius ideas. That Thursday afternoon, she was finishing up an important presentation when her phone rang. "Nellie, dear?" Her mother's voice sounded worried, yet controlled. "Your grandmother fell in the street today. She's at the Central Hospital." Nellie's heart sank. Her grandmother Elisa, at 78, was her best friend, confidant, and the person who had taught her that making mistakes was part of life, a lesson Nellie unintentionally practiced often. "She's fine, just a sprain in her wrist, but because of her age and the fact that she hit her head, they preferred to keep her in the hospital until tomorrow," reassured the mother. "I'm coming right now," Nellie replied, already shutting down the computer and grabbing her purse in one swift motion. On her way to the hospital, Nellie envisioned the scene of her grandmother falling and felt a pang of guilt. She had promised to visit Elisa the previous weekend but ended up being caught in an urgent project. It was always like this. Work consumed her time, while the people she loved waited patiently for her attention. The hospital was relatively calm that afternoon. Nellie asked for information at the reception, where they directed her to room 507. She went up in the elevator, distracted, thinking about what she would say to her grandmother, about the flowers she would buy the next day while mentally counting how much money she had in her account and remembering that she had forgotten to pay the rent. Arriving on the 5th floor, she walked down the corridor following the signs. She was so absorbed in her thoughts that she didn't notice the numbers on the doors. She stopped in front of a slightly open door, gave it a gentle knock, and entered without waiting for a response. The room was dimly lit, with the curtains partially closed. A figure lay on the bed, apparently asleep. Nellie approached silently, assuming it was her grandmother. She sat in the chair beside the bed and leaned over to give the grandmother a kiss on the forehead. That's when she noticed the stubble. 2 brown eyes suddenly opened, meeting hers. For a second, both were frozen, before letting out simultaneous screams. "Who are you?" exclaimed the young man, trying to move away. "Oh my God, I'm sorry." Nellie jumped up, knocking over her bag and spilling its contents on the floor. "I thought you were my grandmother." "Do I look like your grandmother?" he asked, with an expression that mixed shock and amusement. Nellie, completely embarrassed, bent down to gather her belongings. "No, of course not. I'm very distracted. I entered the wrong room. I'm sorry." While picking up her lipstick, wallet, and a pack of mint candies from the floor, she checked the number on the door. 570. How she had managed to reverse the digits was a mystery only Nellie's scattered brain could explain. "I'm leaving immediately. Sorry for the inconvenience," she said, heading for the door with her face as red as a beet. "Stay," said the young man in a soft but firm voice. "I've been waiting for you." Nellie stopped, confused. She turned around slowly. "How so? Do you know me?" The young man smiled, a gentle smile that lit up his pale face marked by some bruises in the healing phase. "No, actually, I don't," he admitted. "My name is Evan, and I've been hospitalized here for a month now." Nellie hesitated, but something in his expression made her turn back and sit down again. "I am Nellie, and I'm still very embarrassed." "Don't be," Evan replied. "It was the most interesting thing that's happened to me in the last 4 weeks." He explained that he had been in a serious accident while he was in town for work. He was a software engineer and had come to install a system at a local company. "I was crossing the street, distracted, looking at a map on my phone. I didn't see the car." "You're not from here then?" asked Nellie. "No, I live in the capital. The only relative I have is my mother, but she has heart problems. It would be impossible for her to make the trip." Evan looked out the window where the sky was starting to take on orange hues. "I spend my days lonely in this bed. Last night, looking at the ceiling, I even prayed for someone to come and visit me." He looked back at Nellie. "And you came, even if it was by mistake." Nellie's heart ached. Her grandmother at least had her and a whole bunch of loving relatives. This young man was completely alone, with only nurses and doctors as occasional company. "I need to see my grandmother. She's in room 507. But I promise to come back later to see if you need anything, okay?" "It would be great," Evan replied, with an expression that mixed hope and disbelief, as if he didn't dare believe she would actually return. Nellie found her grandmother sitting on the bed with her wrist bandaged, watching a cooking show on television. "Nellie dear, you didn't have to come," exclaimed Elisa, but her face lit up with the visit. "Of course I did, Grandma. How are you feeling?" "Ah, I'm great. These doctors are exaggerating. It was just a silly slip." She pointed to the chair. "Sit down and tell me how that important project is going." Nellie spent half an hour with her grandmother, talking about work and listening to how the little accident had happened, which her grandmother insisted on downplaying. When the nurse came in to check Elisa's vital signs, Nellie took the opportunity to say goodbye. "I'll come back tomorrow to take you home, okay?" Leaving her grandmother's room, Nellie hesitated. She had promised to return to see Evan, but now she wondered if it would be awkward. After all, he was a complete stranger. But the image of those lonely brown eyes made her decide. Upon entering room 570 again, she found Evan sitting on the bed, with the help of pillows. "I asked the nurse to help me sit up," he explained. "I thought maybe you wouldn't come back." "I promised I would return," Nellie replied, sitting down. "So, Evan, what do you need? Can I bring something from the cafeteria, or—" "How was your day today?" he interrupted. Nellie blinked, confused. "My day?" "Yes, before coming to the hospital. What do you do? What do you like?" And so, instead of a simple courtesy visit, Nellie found herself engaged in a conversation that flowed naturally. She talked about her job at the agency, about her tendency to cause small disasters due to distraction, about her cat named Confusion, an appropriate name for an animal that knocked everything over around the house. Evan, in turn, spoke about his work creating security systems for companies, about his passion for chess, and about the small apartment where he lived with an impressive collection of science fiction books. "My personal record was reading 3 books in one weekend," he commented, "but now I have plenty of time and no books." The conversation stretched for almost an hour, until Nellie looked at the clock and realized she needed to go. She had left food for only one day for Confusion, and knowing her cat, the house would be a mess if she didn't return soon. "I need to go, Evan. It was a pleasure meeting you, even under the strangest possible circumstances." As she was already at the door, his voice stopped her. "Nellie, could you come back tomorrow?" There was a vulnerability in his voice that touched something deep in Nellie. She turned and smiled. "Of course. I'll be here to pick up my grandmother. I'll stop by to see you before that." The next day Nellie arrived at the hospital with a small bag. Inside it were 2 science fiction books that she had bought at the bookstore near her house. Evan was waiting, more excited than the day before. His eyes lit up when he saw the books. "I can't believe it! How did you know I love this author?" "You mentioned it yesterday," Nellie replied, pleased that she had made the right choice. As Evan flipped through the books with the excitement of a child at Christmas, Nellie noticed details she had missed the day before. A small scar on his chin that seemed old, the way a strand of brown hair fell over his forehead, the way his long fingers moved with agility despite the injuries. "And how is your grandmother?" he asked finally. "I'm going to get her now. She's eager to return home and to her plants. She says they miss her." Evan smiled. "She sounds lovely. Lucky to have you as her granddaughter." Nellie blushed slightly. "Actually, I'm the lucky one. She practically raised me while my mother worked 2 jobs after my father left us." The conversation took a more personal turn that morning. Nellie learned that Evan had also been raised solely by his mother, that his dream was to one day write a science fiction novel, and that he was afraid of driving. When she finally said goodbye to pick up her grandmother, Nellie hesitated. "Will you be all right? I mean, I won't need to come back to the hospital tomorrow." "I'll miss you," Evan admitted, but I have your books now. Nellie bit her lip, thoughtful. Let me see your phone. He handed over the device and she added her number to the contact list. Now you can text me whenever you want to talk. And maybe I could visit you again, even without having any grandmother to see. Evan's smile lit up his entire face. I would love that. In the following weeks, Nellie's visits became regular. She brought small things to brighten up the sterile room, a vase with daisies, more books, once even her laptop so they could watch together a movie they both wanted to see. In their conversations they discovered many coincidences. Both loved pistachio ice cream, hated horror movies, and had spent their childhood moving houses frequently. It's like the universe was preparing us to meet, joked Evan one day when they found out they had both attended the same indie band concert 3 years earlier. As Evan physically recovered, Nellie helped him regain his confidence as well. She was by his side the first time he managed to walk down the hallway unassisted, holding his hand and encouraging each painful step. You don't have to do this, he said once. There must be more important things to do than spending your free time with a stranger you met by accident. First, Nellie replied, you're no longer a stranger. And second, nothing is more important than being with people who make us feel good. Evan's hospital discharge day came faster than both expected. A month after the accidental meeting, he was ready to leave the hospital, although he still needed physical therapy sessions. And now? Nellie asked as she helped him pack his belongings. Are you going back to your town? There was a tension in the air that neither dared to name. During those weeks, something had blossomed between them, something that went beyond friendship. Actually, Evan replied, the company I was working for when I had the accident offered me a permanent position here. They were impressed with the system I installed, even though it was what indirectly caused my accident. Nellie's heart raced. So you're staying? If I have a good reason to stay, he replied, holding her hand. Nellie smiled. I think I know of an apartment for rent in my building, and the manager allows pets in case you want to adopt a cat to keep Confusone company. Sounds perfect, Evan replied, leaning in to kiss her softly. 6 months later, at a dinner at Elisa's house, Nellie's grandmother raised her glass in a toast, to my granddaughter's distraction which led her to the wrong room in the hospital, but to the right man for her life. Everyone laughed and toasted. Evan, now completely recovered and working at his new job, held Nellie's hand under the table. You know, he whispered, that prayer I made in the hospital asking for company? I think it was the best thing I ever did in my life. And that distraction of mine mixing up the room numbers, definitely my favourite mistake, she replied, kissing him lightly. What began as a mistake became the right path for the lives of those young people who, amid science fiction books, hospital visits, and a cat named Confusion, found in each other exactly what they didn't know they were looking for. Sometimes entering the wrong room can lead to the right place, and sometimes the most important encounters of our lives happen precisely when we are not looking for them. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.